What secrets lie buried beneath the shifting sands of Egypt? For thousands of years, the Great Pyramids have stood as silent sentinels, guarding the slumber of kings and queens. These monumental structures, marvels of ancient engineering, were built not merely as tombs but as gateways to the afterlife. They were filled with treasures of unimaginable wealth, intended to accompany the pharaohs on their eternal journey. But these tombs were also designed with a purpose far more sinister: to protect their sacred contents from the greedy hands of mortals. The ancient Egyptians were masters of preservation, not just of bodies, but of secrets. And with these secrets came warnings, etched into stone and whispered down through the ages. These warnings speak of a terrible retribution for those who would dare disturb the dead. They tell of a curse, a powerful and malevolent force unleashed upon any who desecrate the final resting place of a pharaoh. Is it merely a story, a frightening tale told to deter tomb robbers, or does something more profound, more mysterious linger in the darkness of these ancient chambers? The line between superstition and reality has often blurred in the hot desert air, creating a legend that has captivated and terrified the world for centuries. The story of the Pharaoh's curse is not just about ancient history, it is a chilling exploration of our own fears of the unknown, and the powerful grip the past holds on the present. The very idea of a curse taps into a primal human fear. It is the fear of retribution from beyond the grave, the notion that the dead can reach out and touch the world of the living. For the ancient Egyptians, death was not an end but a transition. They believed the soul, or Ka, required the physical body to survive in the afterlife. To disturb a tomb was to threaten a soul's eternity, a crime of the highest order. It is no wonder then that they would invoke the most terrifying deterrents imaginable. These were not simple threats but solemn invocations to their most powerful gods, calling for vengeance upon those who would show such disrespect. As we peel back the layers of sand and stone, we begin a journey into the heart of this enduring mystery. We will travel back in time to an era of gold gods and grand ambitions. We will stand at the threshold of a sealed tomb, feeling the same mix of awe and trepidation that gripped the archaeologists who first broke the silence of millennia. The question we must ask is not simply whether the curse is real, but what its story tells us about the ancient world and our own modern anxieties. The whispers of the past are faint, but if we listen closely, they have a remarkable, and sometimes terrifying, story to tell. In the year 1922, the world's attention turned to a sun-scorched valley in Egypt, the Valley of the Kings. For years, the British archaeologist Howard Carter, with the steadfast financial backing of his patron, Lord Carnarvon, had been searching for a lost tomb. It was the tomb of a minor pharaoh, a boy king named Tutankhamun, who had been all but erased from history. Many believed the valley had yielded all its secrets, but Carter was relentless, driven by a conviction that something extraordinary still lay hidden beneath the rubble. His persistence was born of years of meticulous research, and an intuition that few others possessed in the field of archaeology. On the 4th of November, a young water boy stumbled upon a step cut into the bedrock. This single step led to a flight of stairs, descending into the earth and ending at a sealed doorway. Carter, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and disbelief, immediately sent a telegram to Lord Carnarvon in England. "At last have made wonderful discovery in valley, a magnificent tomb with seals intact, recovered same for your arrival, congratulations." The world held its breath. The seals on the door were those of the royal necropolis, suggesting the tomb was untouched, a time capsule preserved for over 3,000 years. Lord Carnarvon arrived weeks later, and on the 26th of November, Carter stood before the second sealed door at the end of the corridor. With trembling hands he made a small breach in the upper left-hand corner. He held a candle to the opening and peered inside, the hot air from the tomb extinguishing the flame, and carrying with it the scent of perfumes and oils locked away for millennia. Lord Carnarvon, standing anxiously behind him, asked, "Can you see anything?" Carter's reply has since become legendary. He could only manage to stammer, "Yes, wonderful things." What Carter saw was just the antechamber, but it was filled to the brim with a dazzling array of golden chariots, ornate couches shaped like mythical beasts, alabaster vases, and gilded statues. The initial euphoria surrounding the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb soon gave way to a chilling and persistent rumor. The legend of the Pharaoh's curse, once a vague notion, now had a specific and terrifying focus. The first event to ignite the media frenzy occurred just a few months after the tomb was opened. In April 1923, Lord Carnarvon, who had funded the expedition, died suddenly in Cairo. The cause of death was blood poisoning, said to have come from an infected mosquito bite on his cheek after he accidentally sliced it while shaving. The coincidence was irresistible to the press. Newspapers claimed that at the very moment of Carnarvon's death, Cairo went dark. Back in England, his dog Susie was said to have howled and dropped dead. The blackout was plausible, the dog story was likely embellishment. The mosquito bite was even compared to a lesion on Tutankhamun's mummy's cheek. Following Carnarvon's death, the list of alleged victims grew. George J. Gould visited the tomb, fell ill, and died months later of pneumonia. Prince Ali Kamel Fahmy Bey was shot dead in London months after visiting the tomb. Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, who x-rayed the mummy, died in 1924 of a mysterious illness. The press tied each death back to the tomb. Other strange incidents surfaced. Arthur Weigel reported a sense of foreboding and later said Carnarvon joked he'd have only weeks to live. Richard Bethel, Howard Carter's secretary, was found dead in 1929, suspected smothering. His father, Lord Westbury, reportedly leaped from his 7th-floor apartment months later. The public was enthralled, and the curse became an unstoppable, sensational narrative. While newspapers fanned the flames of the curse legend, it was Hollywood that cemented it into a permanent fixture of popular culture. The film industry, always with a keen eye for a sensational story, saw the immense dramatic potential in the tales emerging from Egypt. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb coincided with the golden age of silent film, and the exotic, mysterious setting of an ancient tomb provided the perfect backdrop for horror and adventure. The curse was no longer just a news story, it was becoming a powerful and enduring cinematic trope, ready to be exploited for maximum dramatic effect. The first and most influential film to capitalize on the craze was Universal Pictures' The Mummy, released in 1932. The film starred the legendary horror actor Boris Karloff as Imhotep, an ancient Egyptian priest who is accidentally brought back to life by archaeologists. Driven by a love that spans millennia, the resurrected mummy wreaks havoc using ancient magic and a malevolent curse to pursue his goals. The film masterfully blended elements from the Tutankhamun story, the discovery of a sealed tomb, the reading of a sacred scroll, and the subsequent curse with a gothic horror narrative. It was a blockbuster hit and established the template for mummy movies for decades to come. Hollywood's version of the curse was, of course, far more dramatic and visually spectacular than the subtle, creeping dread described in newspaper accounts. On screen, the curse was not a mosquito bite or a bout of pneumonia. It was a shambling, vengeful corpse wrapped in dusty bandages, an unstoppable force of supernatural evil. This image of the walking mummy became inextricably linked with the Pharaohs' curse, replacing the more ambiguous real-world events in the public consciousness. Films like The Mummy's Hand from 1940 and its sequels further developed the lore, introducing the idea of a loyal high priest, Karis, eternally guarding the tomb of his beloved princess Ananka. This cinematic legacy has proven to be incredibly durable. From the campy hammer horror films of the 1950s and 60s to the action-packed blockbuster franchise starring Brendan Fraser that began in 1999, the theme of the mummy's curse has been endlessly reinterpreted. Each new generation is introduced to the legend, not through historical texts or archaeological reports, but through the thrilling spectacle of cinema. As the legend of the curse grew fueled by sensationalism and Hollywood fantasy, a quieter, more methodical investigation was taking place. Scientists and medical experts began to look for rational explanations. They proposed the culprit was microscopic organisms sealed for millennia. An ancient tomb is the perfect breeding ground. Dark enclosed spaces, residual moisture from burial preparations, offerings of food and drink, or seepage over millennia. Conditions ideal for fungi growth. Mold like Aspergillus niger, Aspergillus flavus microscopic spores become airborne when seals break. Inhaling spores can cause allergic reactions, severe respiratory distress, potentially fatal lung infections in weakened people. Lord Carnarvon could have been particularly vulnerable. Beyond mold, bacteria present a further threat. Mummification didn't sterilize. Microbes could hide in mummy wrappings in the dust on the floor, or in bat droppings. Disturbing them can release ancient microbes into the air. High concentrations of dust and bacteria in tight spaces can overwhelm the respiratory system, causing pneumonia-like illnesses. Scientists also considered chemical toxins, resins oils, natron-poisonous substances might have been placed intentionally. Over time, materials could break down or interact, forming a toxic atmosphere. When Howard Carter opened the tomb, the rush of stale air could have carried ancient perfumes. a cocktail of chemical vapors and deadly biological agents. The scientific curse of the Pharaohs. To understand the real dangers lurking in an ancient tomb, we must turn to the people who spend their lives working in these environments, the archaeologists and microbiologists. Dr. Zahi Hawass, a world-renowned Egyptologist who has excavated countless sites across Egypt, has spoken extensively on this subject. He acknowledges the very real health hazards. I have entered many tombs and I have been sick many times. There is a fungus, a bacteria that you get. We call it the tomb sickness. Your throat and nose are affected. He emphasizes that modern archaeologists are well aware of these risks and take extensive precautions, including wearing masks and allowing tombs to ventilate before entering. Microbiologists who have studied samples from ancient tombs confirm these concerns. Research has identified a wide array of microbial life within these sealed environments. A statistical analysis of the individuals associated with the opening of Tutankhamun's tomb provides perhaps the most compelling evidence against a supernatural curse. A study published in the British Medical Journal examined the survival rates of the 44 Westerners identified as being present in Egypt when the tomb was opened. Howard Carter, the man who was most exposed to the tomb's environment, lived for another 17 years, dying at the age of 64 from Hodgkin's lymphoma, a disease entirely unrelated to any ancient curse. So did the Pharaohs curse us? The scientific evidence strongly suggests the answer is no, not in the way the legends would have us believe. The mysterious deaths and illnesses after Tutankhamun's tomb opening can be rationally explained by a combination of factors. Exposure to toxic mold and bacteria in a sealed environment, the high-stress nature of the work, pure coincidence magnified by sensationalist media coverage. Lord Carnarvon's death was a tragedy, likely from an infected mosquito bite attacking a man already in fragile health, not the wrath of a long-dead king. The reality is as fascinating as the myth. A tomb as a biological time capsule, preserving gold and jewels, preserving a microscopic ecosystem of dormant life for over 3,000 years, a marvel in itself. The true curse, the resilience of nature, a silent, invisible guardian more effective than any inscription. Science strips away the supernatural and leaves a deeper appreciation for the complex, sometimes dangerous world beneath history's surface. And yet, the legend endures. Why does the Pharaoh's curse still grip our imagination in an age of reason? Perhaps because the myth speaks to something deeper. It's about the sanctity of the dead, and the consequences of hubris. It cautions that some doors should not be opened, some secrets should remain buried. The ancient world still holds power and mystery we cannot fully comprehend or control. The story is a blend of fact and fiction, of history and horror. The truth may be stranger and more complex than the legend, but the legend itself is now part of Tutankhamun's history. It has ensured the boy king will not be forgotten. Artifacts, bodies, stories. Sometimes those stories take on a life of their own, echoing through the corridors of time, whispering from the shadows of the tomb. The truth may be stranger than fiction, but the legend lives on.